Hey everybody, this week on Angelo's Workbench, we are painting the drag car and shooting some clear coat onto them so that we can do decals. Stick around. Don't forget to follow the link in the description to check out Hobbynut Models. So the stock version that I'm doing that green, I decided that the green was just a little too light, so I added a drop or two of black in. And it really was just a drop or two. Black is a very powerful color when you're mixing paints. You just put in one drop or two, and it significantly darkens the color. So that's going on over there. But in the meantime, in between time, I'm going to mask up. Now, I want my top to be the red part, and the sides are going to stay this metallic-y silver. So I'm just going to mask off the hood with my trusty yellow frog tape that I score at Home Depot, which is identical to Tamiya tape in every way that I have found. And you can get lifetime supplies and very large sizes at a significantly lower cost. So now I'm just kind of wanting to make this similar. It doesn't have to be exact. There is some leeway you have with the decal. So I'm just thinking kind of like that. And I want to be able to burnish it down into the spots. And then fold it over like that. That looks really good. And again, I'm burnishing these body lines because I don't want to have any overspray and the paint creep. And so when I do spray this, my first couple of coats will be very light coats. Some guys use a coat of clear because then they say, hey, if the clear coat creeps, you know, no one's the wiser. Who's going to notice? And that works for some people. And hey, that's just not a bad idea. I've tried it before. But I've gotten pretty good with the airbrush to where I can just go in with the color. And so what I've done is I've made a very similar picture to what's there, and that ought to look good. So this part obviously with the tape is going to stay silver, and then these parts will be red. So now I'm going to continue I'll put the hood on just so I can see exactly where the line is on the body. And so now I can just kind of continue this line across, and I'll just kind of put it gently on the body, and then I'll pull the hood off and be able to, there we go. And now I should be able to maybe wiggle that hood out. There. And now I've got my tops of my fenders masked, and again, I'm burnishing them as I go. The tape is pretty flexible. It takes a burnish very well. If you have to, you can take it off and reapply it, and apply it from one edge instead of all at once. That looks pretty good to me. The tape is semi-transparent, so you can see when you've got a good burnish. If you see any lighter yellow colors, then you know you've got an air gap. Alright, so that looks pretty good to me, and I'm just going to pop the hood back on, just as kind of a test, and see that my lines match up. And hey, look, this line somehow moved over here. So we're gonna make a correction there. So I'm gonna do that right now. Not quite sure how that happened, but it happens. So there we go. Let's try this again. And we'll pop this hood off. There we go. And there, that might be better. Alright, let's give that a try. Pop the hood back on. Oh, that's much better. We have a nice straight line. That's going to look great. So that's where my red is going to be. And then basically it's going to just follow this line down the body. and it's going to be the whole top of the car is going to be red. So I'm going to just join this tape here. And so now this is a right along the body line. And then this has a little curvature to it, so I'm having a hard time following that curve with my existing piece. So I'm going to two-piece this. And I'm going to just join in this. And then I can follow the body line exactly, put a little curvature in the tape. And then that's going to be it. There's not going to be any red on the back. Or maybe I will make the back of the car red. You know, I hadn't thought about that. What do I do about the back of the car? Well, the front of the car is silver, so I think I'll keep the back of the car silver. So we'll just terminate that one right there, and then I'll put another one across the back. So there we go. That's looking pretty good. And I'll have to do a little bit on the bottom here, a little bit of masking. So I'll go ahead and mask up the other side. And then we're going to mix up our red, which is going to be basically, I think, some pearl red here, which I have, and some pearl copper. We're going to mix those two together. We're going to see what we get. And maybe a little candy or a little pearl or a little, a little candy red will get mixed in there. We'll see. We'll come back for the mixing. So this is kind of the fun part. I know I want a red for this, and I'm not really looking for any red in particular. I wanted kind of like maybe a metal flake, candy apple, or something along those lines. So I've got basically I've got a lot of freedom here to basically come up with a custom color. My only thing that I have to make sure is I have to make sure I mix enough, but that should be very easy because I'm only spraying the top of the car and a piece of the hood. So I'm going to start out with some pearl red, which I have here. And I'll open the lid and let you have a look at this. So it's like a little bit of a red with like a metal flake. And this is a transparent color. So that's why we needed a silver underneath. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that in. And then I'm going to put a few drops of opaque in, because this is not transparent. Because I want to make sure that I get a little bit of good coverage with this. And then I have some blood red. This is a candy, so this is an aniline dye. And I'm just mixing that in for a little bit of color. And then I needed a little bit of something to give me just a little bit of the candy apple transition. So I was thinking that a little bit of pearl copper might be cool. And I might end up with something that looks like a candy apple, or I might end up with something that looks entirely altogether different. But this is kind of the fun part. You mix a little bit and you see what you come up with. And if I end up with something that I don't like, I'll toss it back and come up with something else. But I gotta say, I'm liking this so far. The copper tones are coming out in the red, and that looks fantastic. We might have a winner here, and I don't even know like what I put in there. It was kind of just like a mystery, and that's looking really cool. That's looking really cool, and it'll go over the silver, and it will darken a little and probably turn a little bit different when I spray it over the silver, because this does have the aniline dye in it, and it does have the opaque red in it. So there should be some pretty good coverage here. I am liking that. I'm going to put just a little more of the copper in, because I want to change it a little bit. The red. I don't want it to be so red. Let's see here. Let's see what I get with a little bit of that in there. Oh, yeah. Wow, there's our color. It looks pretty good. I'm going to put a little more red in. This aniline dye is the candy from the Candy 2.0 is very powerful as far as so I'm going to put a little bit of that in. And let's see what we get. It should make it a very deep, miles deep looking red. And then the copper looks really good in there. Oh, this is fantastic. So that looks like our color. I am down with that. That looks good. All right, so now we're going to put our UVLS in, 20% volume, because this is what converts it over to the acrylic polyurethane, so that it's good for hard surfaces. I know I've said that a million times, but hey, here it is. That's what the product is, and that's why I'm putting it in. I know I repeat myself a lot in the videos, and a lot of it is because you never know who's watching what part of the video. People don't watch all my videos right straight through. So there goes that. And this is more than enough paint to paint this little part. And if I did have to mix some more up, I could very easily. It might not be exact. I would have to spray the whole car again. But I would be able to, I'd be able to come up with something. I have all the pieces to the puzzle here. All the paints that went into it. And that looks good. And I've got a really good consistency here. I'm going to thicken it up a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit more of this pearl red in here. There we go. I over-thinned just a tiny bit. There we go. That's much better. Much better. And that's a great looking color. So, now I've got to let this acclimate for 10 minutes. The materials have to bond together chemically. And after they're done doing that, I will strain it and get this ready for the airbrush, and we'll go to the booth. So here we come in with the red. It's been acclimating now for a little while. I'm just giving a little test spray. See how I'm doing. And again, I'm just giving it a light coat to start out with. Here's the angle I'm spraying from. I don't want to take any chances on getting paint under that tape line. So there, we'll just let that hit the sides too. I'm gonna leave the underside alone. Make it the silver. So there we go. We'll just let that sit. This is one of those colors that once you clear coat it, it's really gonna pop. For right now, obviously we're spraying it. It comes out kind of flat. But then once I clear coat it, it's really gonna look fantastic. That'll be later. If not this video, the next video. And I'm just going around and double checking. I masked this a couple days ago, so I'm just going around and checking to make sure that all of my tape is still where I want it. It hasn't moved. There we go. Again, light coats. Right, so we're just gonna go in and just gonna kind of get nice light coverage of the red on top of the silver. Try and minimize any banding if we can. Try and make the coats as even as possible. There we go. There we go. Front again. So now we're just going to kind of let that cure. It kind of looks red, kind of doesn't. It'll really start to change color on the second and third coat. And we'll come back. And we're going to go with coat number 2. This could very well be a heavier coat. Well, it will be a heavier coat. Now I should really start to see that color pop. Yeah, look at that. The color is really... Once this gets clear coated, it's really going to pop. So I'm thinking that there's going to be 3 coats. I'm going to do a 3rd coat after this one, most likely. This one isn't going to be super duper heavy, just slightly heavier. Just gotta get that roof nice, thoroughly covered. Now I'm getting the trunk. And then I like to go both directions, minimize my banding. That's a great color. It looks a little bit textured right now, but it will level out as it cures. And then obviously I will clear coat it, polish out the clear. We'll have a nice shine. So that's looking really, really good. Yes, it is. I like it. All right, so we'll let that coat cure. That might be the last coat, maybe. I'm not sure. I might do another coat. If I do, I'll do that off camera. You've seen enough of this red, and we'll be back to talk about what's next. So we've got our red on here and the silver, which looks fantastic. I'm really happy with that. I'm really excited about how this came out. Came out great. Exactly what I was looking for. And we've got the green that we did last week. So now what needs to happen is, because these are water-based paints, if I try to put decals on this, the paint is going to just be destroyed by the water with the water-based paint. The water from the decals reacts with the water-based paint, obviously, and then the decals will, that'll basically be it. So also any kind of setting solution that you want to use, if you have some difficult curves, the setting solution just eats this paint for breakfast. So what we've got to do is we got to do a mid coat. So I'm going to lay down a mid coat of clear, and I'm just going to shoot regular clear, see how the colors pop, make it, see how it looks. And then once that cures, then we can go ahead and we can put our decals on. Because it's a 2K clear, that's a not water-based, it seals it in and protects it from the water for the decals and the decal setting solution. So this is a necessary mid-step. However, we have the added bonus of being able to see how the clear coat makes these colors pop, how the metal flake pops in these colors. And if we like it and the pop is what we're looking for, fantastic. We'll put our decals on, we'll shoot it with another coat of clear and be done. Maybe 2 more coats of clear and be done. If we think that we want maybe a little more flake, we could potentially mix in a little bit of powder into the clear and get a little more pop. We'll see what happens. We could also, theoretically, go back over it with a candy or a candy pearl. We wouldn't want to change the color too much because obviously we've already applied our decals. So if we change the color at all, we'd be changing the color of the decals. But we could add a metal flake or a little bit of a pearl flake to it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the spray booth. I'm going to mix up just a small batch, a itty-bitty batch of my 2K clear, just to give these each one single solitary coat to protect it. The goal is only to protect the paint from the decals. And then we will be in the spray booth momentarily. Okay, we're here in the spray booth. So I figured I would go ahead and do the hoods first. This is, when you're doing colors like this is kind of a telling moment. Because the clear coat really reveals what you've got for a color here. And look at how that just makes that color almost completely change. Pretty amazing. So I've got to get under the hood here as well. I want to seal it all in. As I always do. I always do under my hoods. And I'm not overly excited about protecting the underside from anything. I mean, it doesn't hurt, certainly. Just got a little fuzzy there on the hood. I did wipe these down with a tack cloth before I started spraying. I gave them a little tack cloth action. This one, the red, is really gonna watch the difference here. Yeah, even the silver. Popped a little more when I hit it with the clear coat. Look at that. It's pretty amazing. And then the back side, gonna make sure I get that. And again, we're not looking for a ton of shine on this coat. What we're looking for is just enough to protect the paint. This will shrink back a little, but as long as it's going to protect the paint from the decals that I'm going to apply, that's our only concern. And that's more than enough clear coat to do that. And then after we apply the decals, then we're going to come back with probably 2 more coats of clear, maybe even 3. Sometimes I'll do a coat and then a little wet sand, because again, once you shift over to the 2K clear, then you can wet sand. With the acrylic, the water-based paints, you cannot wet sand. You're basically sanding with the paint's thinner. You take the paint right off when you wet sand. So I'll come in with the clear coat, and then I'll wet sand and smooth it out, and then go with a final coat, and it just comes out so incredibly shiny. I can tell by how much I'm pulling back on the trigger that my airbrush needs to be cleaned. I do not have my normal flow here. I'm having to pull back further on the trigger to get enough clear coat to wet it out. But that's okay. I'll just make a mental note that, hey, I'm going to have to clean this airbrush very soon. Look at that green change. Look at it darken and pop. That's pretty wild to watch. And now you can see the metal flake so much more clearly. That's pretty cool. Now I'm ready for whatever kind of decals I want to put on here. That looks like really cool. I like that color. That green came out great. And now let's do the silver and red one. And then this is going to have to, clear coat is going to have to cure for a couple of days, because decals like to stick to fresh clear coat and not slide. So then you damage the clear coat, damage the decals, and nothing goes well. So best to let the clear cure for quite some time. Wow, I love what it's doing to the silver too. It's making it look really nice. I can tell already that we're just going to be putting more clear coat on. We're not going to have to mix in any pearl or anything. These colors are popping marvelously. We don't need to mix in any flakes. Get this roof. Look at that. Mixed up the exact amount of clear coat that I needed. That's fantastic. is sweet. I've got a little bit extra here in the brush. That looks great. Look at that. That red is awesome. And there's a nice, it's hard to see in the light in here, but there's a nice metal flake to that. There's a nice color. It's not candy apple red. I would have needed some more gold, I think. But I like what the copper did to the red. As I was mixing it and I saw what the copper was changing it into, I was like, oh, that's a nice color. It's not exactly what I had in mind, but sometimes, you know, it's a happy accident, as that painter used to say. There's no mistakes, there's happy accidents. There it is. All right, so these are going to cure, gas out, and we're going to do decals, more clear coat, but that's going to be next week. So stick around. And that's going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you so very much for coming on by and watching. Don't forget to check out that link in my description to Hobbynut Models. Any purchases made over there following that link will help my channel. Also, check me out on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. And, of course, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. All of that helps me out. Thanks again. I look forward to seeing you all next week.